I have volunteered for the service site mesh patterns site, and I am currently working on it with Iva. So we are yet to receive a list of tasks and instructions from this depot Priya. That's where we are right now.
Okay, sounds nice. Okay, so I think Shivam, this is your first time as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, this is my first meeting. I am Shivam Verma. I'm a fourth year CS undergrad pursuing my BTech here from India. I am currently exploring the cloud native ecosystem and the DevOps field. And I attended the newcomers meeting today only. Yeah, I'm here to see if I can contribute.
Oh, sounds nice. By the way, what are your languages that you mostly work in?
Well, I am familiar with Java and I'm currently learning about Docker and Kubernetes.
Okay, okay. We have a lot of workflows going around here concerning Kubernetes and Docker and stuff. We have a project called SMP. Give it a look if you like. And so that moving on to the next introduction, I guess. Alex, this is your first time as well, right?
No, this is not my first time.
Anyways, you can still introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, yesterday was actually my first time to be in the development meeting. I'm also joining to contribute. It's my first time to do anything open source. I currently work as a site reliability engineer, and the languages that I'm coming with are Go and JavaScript.
Oh, Go and GraphQL. This is good. Actually, we need people in both of these things, so it would be nice to have some contributions on your side, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on, I think we had Cyrene for a while, but I guess she left. Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. Hi. I didn't see you in the participants list. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Cyrene. I've joined the Slack for Layer 5, I think 2 weeks or so ago. And yeah, I'm learning how everything is going and trying to make some contributions. And that's it.
That sounds nice. Sorry for misenunciating your name. It's
Oh, it's
Cyrene. Okay. You must get that a lot. Anyways, okay, so we can start off with the agenda items. Let me share my screen. Okay, so the first item is from Chris, and it's about minimizing the number of files in the root directory of Meshery. So would you, Chris, would you give the context yourself, or do you mind, should I give the context for this? Okay, I guess we don't have Chris right now on the call. In case I'm again wrong.
Yeah, I'll ping Chris just to see if he's around.
Okay, so, Cyrene, so you next. Would you like to share your screen and talk about your changes?
Okay. Okay. Making sure my microphone is open.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So this is the context of the issue that I'm working on. So because there are the same sets of Helm charts under Meshery operator and Meshery, I'm trying to find a way to kind of minimize the number of duplicates in both sides. And one way that I found is by using the by leaving the shard sets under one, either Meshery operator or the Helm Meshery, and kind of adding repository repository parameter inside the Helm shards definitions to kind of import the one that's already defined instead of rewriting it again. This is the draft PR that I did. So there are a lot of changes here, 172, which is very scary. But what I pretty much did was, as I explained, kind of leave one set of charts and write those as the dependency for the Meshery charts. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly or not.
Yeah.
Okay. And by running Helm dep update, .tgz files are created under the other set of charts. And I'm not sure if this is the best approach to do that, honestly. So I don't know what you'll think.
Yeah. Oh, embarrassingly. So Serene, nice to see you. Nice. Thanks for having the webcam on. It's very nice to see you. I steered Serene wrong initially, like getting my wires crossed, I think. And so she has uncrossed them and is addressing our, like, a really long-standing challenge for us. It's made me come to almost hate Helm. It's just so frustrating. Maybe that's just my ignorance. I don't know. There is the most recent challenge that we've had here is like when Meshery installs, and when you deploy Meshery, either you build it locally or you run it in a container. Whether that container is running on Kubernetes or outside of Kubernetes, when Meshery gets in contact with a Kubernetes cluster, it automatically deploys the Meshery operator, which is appropriate. It's a time to value consideration, which is to say that whenever a user runs Meshery, we want to get the operator into their cluster as quickly as possible. We want for MeshSync, one of the custom controllers, to start up, analyze and discover the environment, send back information to Meshery server, so that then Meshery server or Meshery UI can show people all the information about their cluster and let them manage their cluster, the workloads, the service meshes, and so on. Our challenge has been that not every time that you stand up Meshery, or not every time that Meshery connects to a Kubernetes cluster. Oh, how do I say this? Oh, I'm going to get myself confused again. Yeah. Sometimes you need to deploy Meshery server and sometimes you don't. And therein lie our challenge with use of Helm and a set of charts. And so I interjected mostly to say that I hadn't had a chance to look at what Serene has done here. If Serene, you might at this point know more than me, at least, maybe the rest of us, about Helm. And if so, I'm hoping to learn today. I've been told in the past that if you have a chart and it has subcharts, the top level chart must be installed. Like, you don't have a choice. Like that's just the way that Helm works. That's what I've been told. And I kind of halfway believe it and halfway don't. And so on that particular question, like, do you know, or like, or of the approach that you're taking here?
The approach here is that since the subcharts are already defined under the Meshery operator, they can be used by Meshery because they already exist locally. It is kind of installing them when it's, installing these files here. It is installing them again, but the way that I understood the issue was that changing one set and then making sure that the other set has the same changes is kind of an issue. So maybe if there is only one set that can be changed and then using the Helm dep update, it will install again, well, kind of these subcharts under the under Meshery. But at least it will be easier to maintain, maybe.
Yeah, totally. To maintain for exactly what you just said, also for like reduction of the amount of logic that it takes to maybe you're uninstalling Meshery, and then the logic you have to go through is like, well, which chart did we install, or which set of charts did we install? What release, what Helm release, did we install? And so which one to remove? It's just like, yeah, all around is just more to track. That's in part why we eliminated support for deploying Meshery using Kubernetes manifests, just vanilla Kubernetes manifests, was because of the pain involved in like maintaining n number of ways of deploying Meshery. And it's just to ease that load. And so that's definitely, so your approach your approach was following the Helm documentation, you changed the Helm Meshery chart. So its dependency charts have as a path, the path of the chart stored locally under Helm Meshery operator. Okay.
Yes.
And do we still like with the changes that you've made here, do we still end up with two Helm releases to like one set of Helm charts that's pretty full and pretty populated with all of the components? And then do we still have another one that is fairly small with, yeah.
Yes, well, looking at the checks.
Got you. I wonder, like so this is a good step. It's just less to maintain, less to go wrong. The fewer lines of code that you have, less bugs you can have.
Here it's not working because I think there's some kind of logging issue. Don't know why, but
yeah.
It's still doing the 15 charts, I think.
And so part of our challenge has been, actually while we're examining this and while I'm fumbling around, I didn't really mean to interject. I thought Ashish might not have a lot of comments initially. And so there's this open pull request on Meshkit. Meshkit is a central library that we use for storing a lot of common functionality common to it's. If you don't mind, we should go take a quick look because it hopefully solves part of our challenge here and assuages the pain that we have. So it is, it is under github.com/meshery/meshkit.
This one.
Yeah. I believe, there's an open pull request. I haven't looked at it, but I think that it addresses one of our challenges, and that has been about the consistent use of release names. So making sure that we're trying to remove one Helm release versus another. That so number 202, like the last PR there.
This one? This one?
It's at the top.
Top one, this one. Okay.
I've been told that it rectifies the confusion over the Helm release name. It's PR, fixes failing request. Okay. Chart name. Okay. So this is something maybe to take a little bit of time later on the call or after the call to kind of digest and incorporate into your line of thinking about the open PR that you have. I think it'll round out part of your emerging understanding of Helm and then your understanding of how we're using it currently. And it might, and then you can reflect on whether or not you would follow the same path in your current PR or not.
Okay.
I think that that's one of the things that I know is new to me, or that I hadn't really comprehended before, and I've spent zero time reading about. That is these constructs of Helm, a Helm release, and the fact that you give it a name, a Helm chart, a Helm subchart, and then the fact that there's a Helm. I think that there's a Helm chart version number, and then there's an application version number, and how all of 5 of the or 6 of those things interrelate to one another, what the rules are in Helmland. It's not a land that I've been to very often. And so I bring up all those concepts because ultimately we want to incorporate as few of those as possible. Or like we just want to deploy some charts and undeploy some charts, and like, yes, sure, we want a little bit of configurability, or we want to be able to maybe just select one of the charts and deploy just that chart. Yes, we do want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give you one other.
Yeah, I just had a question, like the way, according to your changes, so the Meshery operator chart becomes like a dependency, right, of the Meshery chart.
Yes, it's
So,
our okay.
go ahead.
I think I understand what you mean. Yeah, since after reading the Meshery architecture diagrams, it seems like it's the other way around.
Actually, they, quite frankly, not very much. So Meshery operator can be deployed independently of Meshery server. So there are 2 components which can deploy Meshery operator. One is the Meshery server. The other is it can be directly deployed by Meshery CTL, which is the command line client we have. So when we deploy Meshery server using Meshery CTL, what happens is that we want Meshery server to come out of the box with the operator. So in that case, Meshery comes up, the operator comes up. But in a lot of cases, like we are running locally, or in some other cases, we need a way to just deploy operator independently of. So we don't need other Meshery components. We just need to deploy the operator as one release. And and in other cases, we need that the deployment of operator as part of the whole Meshery. So there are 2 different cases, and they need to be covered. And yeah, initially they were split between 2 charts. So if we want the whole thing, we would deploy Meshery, that would deploy operator along with it. If we just want operator, we would just deploy operator. So we had these 2 charts. So with this consolidation and with this operator becoming the dependency of the bigger Meshery chart, do we have the ability to just deploy that dependency and not deploy the parent chart within which it lies?
You mean do we have the possibility to deploy Meshery operator without deploying the other one? Or
yeah.
Yes, because since the subcharts themselves are under Meshery operator.
Okay, so we can deploy the subchart and not the other stuff if we want to, and we can deploy the whole thing if we want to as well, right? Okay, that sounds right. And there might be a little confusion because there are multiple components which actually invoke this operation. So Lee has put in the Meshery architecture deck. Just give it a look. And does anyone else have any question? I didn't actually get time to review this PR. I'll review it and give you some detailed suggestions on this if required. And I'll try to build it on my system and do all sorts of try to test different flows. And if I get problem in one of those, I'll ping you that's the very specific problem.
Okay.
Okay, so far it looks good to me. Thank you for initiating this effort.
Thank you.
Okay. So if anyone else does not have any other questions, I think we can move on to the next item. Okay, let's if we move back, do we have Chris with us? I don't think we have. Okay, so Hamza had a long-standing PR about his end-to-end tests. I think we can first cover that, and then we can come back to my little updates that I had. So Hamza, would you like to share your screen?
Hello,
Yeah. Hi.
am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ashish. So let me share my screen with you. Hold on a second. So the problem I'm having right now is that the tests are getting skipped, but I updated the core workflow to account for resources coming up at a slow pace. So
Okay, I just like to interject and give a little bit of context, because there might be people on this call who don't have context about these tests. Yeah, so I'll just take 2 minutes to explain what we're talking about here. So we have designs which are a unit of deployment in Meshery. So we use those designs to deploy stuff. It can be your service mesh, it can be service mesh and add-ons, it can be applications, pretty much anything. If you have a K8s manifest for it, you deploy it. If you have a Docker Compose, or if you have a Helm chart, anything that can be you can have that in the form of a pattern file or a design. There are some discrepancies between these two. So we have these end-to-end tests in each of the adapters. So for instance, anything that is related to all the Istio related stuff, we have all the logic for that inside of the Istio adapter. So Istio adapter runs those tests, and by running those tests, what I mean is that it on whenever you merge a PR, we want to have these regression tests that the core capability of Meshery adapter, which is to deploy a service mesh, shouldn't break. It should be there. So we have across all our adapters these end-to-end tests, which basically set up your Kubernetes, set up Meshery server, and then it tries to deploy a design. And if it is successful, then it is reported as success. If it fails, then we know that okay, there is something breaking. So inside of the console adapter, the only adapter in which we don't have it right now is console adapter, and Hamza has been working on this for a while. So these the core workflow, if you want to see where the core workflow is, it's inside of the. I'll share the link. It's inside of Meshery. That core workflow is a callable workflow, and it is being reused across all the adapters, and it does exactly what I said. It pulls Meshery server, it sets up Kubernetes, and it tries to deploy a design. And that design has, for example, can you go to the files changed on your PR so that we can see that pattern file / design that I'm talking about that we try to deploy. So we try to deploy that, and we don't have that in console yet. And so Hamza's PR is about adding those things so that we can have those tests here as well. So now Hamza, where are you stuck on? You can go ahead.
So I changed I added this emoji for console. I added hash caps, but for this one I added console is a bit messy right now because I updated I pulled the master, so now file strength is 420. But let me just use this one to demo. So I added this pattern file, which is like what Meshery uses to deploy these resources. It's kind of auto-generated. Then in the install link.yaml, I also made it based off of Istio. And now here is where the real gist of this thing is. Like we set the pattern file, then we test the adapter for service mesh install, and these are all GitHub Actions jobs, and we update the documents based on what has the results of the test. Then here we set the pattern file for the service mesh and sample app. Then it is basically the same thing. But the thing is, if I can quickly show you what I modified in in the core workflow. So yeah, in the core workflow, I added a for loop that will wait for 30 seconds in case the error is about the. So let me first get to it, and everyone has context here. This is the new one. So I added a for loop on the pattern apply job that is here. No?
You'll have to scroll a little down. After we set up everything, it's like almost. Can you scroll a little bit?
Yeah, here. This is the for loop I added. It does it 3 times, so it checks if this Meshery CTL pattern apply has has an output of invalid workload of type, and if it's true, then it will sleep for 30 seconds, or else it will break out of the loop. So these 30 seconds are to give the whatever resource has been listed time to come up. But when I changed this and I pointed these workflows to my branch, the test gets skipped. So I don't really know what's happening, but I've been trying to debug it.
So the pattern doesn't get deployed. That step entirely gets skipped. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they skip the whole end-to-end test.
The whole end-to. Can you make sure that in this thing, inside of the path, ignore a key? You haven't mentioned .github as a directory.
Yeah, I changed that as well. It will here, right?
Yeah.
Pass.ignore, yeah.
Yeah. So other than this, actually, I can't see it because that's not part of the changes made. But there also we have when we want those tests to run. So does that only include push, or the workflow that we are referring actually also includes pull requests and all? The workflow that you are referring here. Yeah. Can you scroll all the way up? So yeah, it only it refers to pull request as well. On branches.
So I've been stuck here for a minute, but I'm trying to find out what happened in this change that is causing, because this is the only thing I changed, and also I pointed these workflows to my branch here. Because that's where the for loop is. So
okay, I guess just adding the for loop shouldn't skip the entire action. That's kind of so are you sure that it's just the addition of for loop that skipped it, or was it getting skipped? Because some other things might also be part of it. For example, the workflow that you're referring, so this one, the test_adapters.yaml, this workflow that you're referring, is that the constraints that you have on? So this is the copy paste of the one we have inside of Meshery core, right?
Yeah.
And with the only changes that.
Yeah, this is the only change I made.
Okay. And by the way, the console tests, apart from this, so this change is part of the fact of that we want to make the core workflow a bit more resilient, so that we have retries. So if we try to deploy something, and currently we are having issues only because we don't have pre-generated Kubernetes components. I won't go into what pre-generated Kubernetes components mean, but we need those if we want to run Kubernetes stuff. And in workflows, it's kind of tough to get those things, so we need retries there. But for a simple console mesh installation, which we still don't have, we don't need this. So this is like a two-part thing. So this is like the second part. We'll get to that. I'll see the workflow that you're referring, and maybe there can be a case that the pull request has to be made on that branch, or you are making this on this branch. So there can be something going on there, and I'll look into that. But before this, can you also talk about the just pure console mesh installation and where we are with that? The end-to-end test which just tries to install console mesh.
The end-to-end test that tries to install console mesh, at first, before I added these changes, it was failing because the resources did not come up on time. So Meshery pattern apply, that's why we needed this in the, it would give me like an error in the GitHub workflow, like the error would be.
Did the console mesh, because we don't need this change for just console mesh installation, we need these for Kubernetes stuff installation. So are you saying that even console mesh wasn't getting installed?
Console mesh was getting installed, but then it would say invalid workload of type, and it picks maybe another Kubernetes component like config map.k8 from the pattern file. The workload would change every time I run it. It wouldn't be the same, but it would always be like an invalid workload type k service.k8.
Okay, so here's what I would suggest. I think that I would suggest that you take the console mesh thing, the only console mesh installation in this PR, and let's just merge it, because we have something, and then the only thing that would remaining is it would be related to this change that you're showing right now, and then we can wrangle this thing like by this weekend. I'll look into it, what's the issue that you're facing, and we'll get that. But if you're saying that console mesh was getting installed, just remove those extra add-ons and all those stuff and put those into a separate PR, and then let's go along with that PR, because it's a long-standing PR you have. If we get the console, you will get the confidence that okay, so the console mesh is getting installed, we have something at place, and the addition would be a little easier. So yeah, let's just go with that, and I'll get back to you on Slack regarding why this might not be running. And again, I have a sense that this might be something related to that the PR is getting created on this branch and it requires it on this branch or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll first merge your changes in the core workflow after testing. So basically, you'll be having 3 PRs. The first PR will just install console mesh. We'll get that merged. Then there would be 2 PRs, one in Meshery core, and you can create that PR in Meshery core as a draft PR. We won't merge it. The changes that you have here, so that it's easy to see that what and those because what you do is that you create on the branch that you have these changes on, where you have made the Meshery core workflow resilient, create a PR so that we can basically map changes on that pull request, as well as the extra additions of app emoji voto and other K8s components that you're trying to deploy. We can track those things together and then merge those things together once the workflow runs successfully. How does that sound?
Okay, if you have some time tomorrow, we can jump on a call.
Okay.
And see a way forward. Okay, I will ping you tomorrow. Then we'll see how to sort this out.
Okay.
If
I find anything, okay, if I just send the important links on the Meshery CI channel, or do this, that after the call, I'll be actually sending out a kind of a summary of what we talked about here. There you can add the extra links of your PR, or I'll find it, or I'll add, or you can add those things, and this thing will go in a discuss forum where I post all the links and whatever we talked about. So I'll go through those links, and the links I'm talking about are the links of your changes here, the links of the core workflow that you have changed, and the link of your console adapter PR. So those 3 things, and yeah, so let's move on. Before we move on, I think I see some new folks here. And Divine, is it your first time on the call?
Hello everyone. Okay, this is actually not my first time. This is my second. Okay, for this particular topic, yes, this is my first time on this call. I joined the meeting yesterday. Actually, yesterday was my first time on the call. Thank you.
Okay, that's fairly quick. So, have you've been to the newcomers call previously?
No, I haven't been to the newcomers call yet. I think I'll join next week. Oh,
Okay, that and okay. So, John, this is your first time as well.
Yes, hi guys. This is my first time here too.
Now, would you like to introduce yourself a little so that we can get to know you?
Okay, hi, my name is Joanne once again, and I'm a UI UX designer. So I'm looking forward to what Alexis will share with me on the Slack channel so I can get up to date and know how I can contribute to the product.
Okay.
All right.
Joan, that's awesome. Very, very nice to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. You're in good company, by the way. Actually, it's very fortuitous that any number of recent newcomers are design talented, if that's a way of phrasing it. And we are so parched for people who are left brain talented, if that's another way of putting it. But just my goodness, there's such a need. So we had the newcomers call earlier today, and a couple of you were on there. I bet that Alexis and maybe some of the rest of you will be chatty in the newcomers channel with some resources and some advice, some counsel about where to jump in. If you don't find a spot in any one of the projects to get your foothold on, to like latch into, then just keep asking, because there's more need than there is people to take stuff on. Really, for the most part, so Pranav Singh is on the call. He's got his camera on. A good example of an individual in the community that's been here for quite some time, is quite impactful in a few different areas. I point him out just because a lot of times I'm the guy who will open up his yapper and talk about stuff. And then so people come to see me, but don't. Like, I encourage you to go see Pranav, or now it looks like Alexis has got a few things to share. There's others here. And Adina Rav, who's been on the call, she's been in the community for ages at this point. Like, don't let me bottleneck you. Like, ask many of your questions publicly as you can. And if your question gets lost in the noise of Slack, the Discuss forum, discuss.layer5.io, is a good place to lodge your question. It's harder to get lost, and ultimately you get points for asking on there. We'll have a leaderboard of people who are asking and answering questions. It's not all about answering, it's about asking as well. And so.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess Sinan, is that the right pronunciation? Sinan, is it your first time as well?
Yeah, it is Sinan. Yeah.
Okay. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Sinan Aikoa. I'm a UX designer from Nigeria. And yeah, I'm a newcomer. And very nice to meet every one of you here. I'm excited. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we have a lot of UX designers coming in. That's nice for the project, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
moving on to my item. So there are a little bit of updates that I have. So I give these updates in the dev call as well that we have every Wednesday. And for those of you who didn't attend, I'll just go over this thing again. So basically, the first thing is about removing QopenE pacing schema from Docker file. So across all our repositories, we had so earlier we were using a binary, and that our own binary, that is a node-based binary, QopenE pacing schema, and that's the whole name. And we were using it here, and that actually inflated the size of a Docker image. And we don't need it now because the functionality that we were using through this, we are actually using now it natively through Golang itself. So of course we don't need it. So we ripped it out of all the adapters and our Meshery server. So it's no longer there. The images are a little bit more slimmer. If you go to the Docker hub, you'll find like if the previous image was 70 megabytes, this one is like 45 or 50. So that's nice. The next thing, I think Hamza already talked about resiliency of core workflow, which is to say that the workflow that is responsible for deploying those designs and making all those assertions that I talked about, that when you deploy a service mesh, the pod should come up, the service should come up, the deployment should come up. It's completely configurable. We can even ask it to check if the config maps have came up and so on and so forth. So all that we want those things, the deployment of the design, to be a bit more resilient, which means that if it fails for the first time, we want to keep continue. We want to have some kind of a retry mechanism, and that is what Hamza was talking about, that his workflow was not getting executed or something. So he already took care of that. I'll check that thing in his PR. So we'll be good to go from there. Another update is that we are now Amd compatible as well. So previously we had a multi-platform workflow that was running and building our Docker images for both the platforms, like Docker and Kubernetes. Sorry, for AMD and ARM, slip of tongue. So it was building our images for both the platforms. But the thing is that there was some hard coding going on in our Docker files where it said that even if the workflow that we used, it was trying to build an image for ARM, there was a hard coding of environmental variable which said AMD 64. So at the end, even the ARM image was actually an AMD image. So we got rid of that, and right now all the adapters are, you can run it on an ARM machine and it will run just as fine. For anyone who's while you're exploring DevOps and everything, and while you're exploring Docker and everything, if you basically, there is an open ask here, which is kind of not like an urgent issue, but it still is kind of an open ask. So I'll just ask it to you guys. So the ask is that we needed inside of our Meshery Docker file, we use this Alpine image as a base image. The problem with this image is if you'll go to the Docker hub and you'll see that this is completely an AMD 64 image. This is not ARM compatible. So we need this some glibc depend. So if you'll go and search for just Alpine image, that actually is ARM and AMD compatible, but that does not have some kind of some C libraries pre-installed, which we need because we compile our binary with CGO enabled. For those of you who know Golang, you would know that there is for things like for some database stuff like SQLite and stuff, internally it uses C functions, and CGO is an interface between C and Go, and there we need some C dependencies. And up until this point, I'm not able to find any basically an image that is both AMD and ARM compatible, which comes with basically an Alpine image that is AMD and ARM compatible, and that comes with glibc dependencies, other than this one. And this one is not ARM compatible, of course. So if you find one in the wild, that we would be really grateful for you, because basically you would be adding ARM support in Meshery server, which currently is not there. So that would be a really good first PR, let's say. So if you find this, there is an open issue for this, I guess. So you can go check that issue out. And if you find this, create a PR. And I don't think we have a discussion going on because this is an open discussion, and I'll actually create a new on discuss. I'll create a question for this so that we can point folks to that discussion, and they can add their suggested images there, and we can, as time passes, maybe someone comes along and says, hey, I actually built an image, or actually there exists an image, so we'll be in luck. So I'll create a discuss post for this thing, for the thing that I just said, because I've repeated myself 1 or 2 times. Does anyone have any questions regarding what I said up until this point? Okay, so I'll take the silence as well.
I have a quick question. I don't know that Prima is on this call, but she's one of the reasons that we're talking about Seago, and the reason we're talking about Seago is to try to provide like full compatibility with all of Meshery's components with ARM as a CPU architecture. Does anyone know, or Ashish, do you know if anyone has built Meshery server with like Ubuntu? I know it would be a very large image, but that could be an easy path for her.
I think since Prima was successful doing that, and she actually, so Prima is, as Lee said, Prima is one of the one of the folks from ARM, and she was trying to run performance tests using Meshery. So Lee had suggested that you can use Ubuntu as a base image that would inflate the image, but you can use that. I don't think she tried that because at the end, what she ended up doing is she used x86. So she ran Meshery on her x86 machine, and I haven't tried it for now because the issue was resolved and there was no necessity is the mother of invention, and the necessity wasn't there. So I stopped inventing. I didn't go ahead and tried that with that image because somewhere I knew that it would work because it's an Ubuntu image. But yeah, I think I haven't tried it, but it sure should work.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so as I keep speaking, I keep new names keep popping up on my right hand side. So there is one new name as well. So okay, so this is camel case. So I don't know. So I'll parse it using that. So I'll say that your name is Conrad, right?
Yes. So my name is Gabriel. That's just I use the name Conrad for the Zoom link, for the Zoom meeting rather.
Okay. So would you like to introduce yourself, like how you came here and what are your interests?
Okay, my name is Gabriel. I'm from Nigeria, a full stack developer. I got this invitation from a friend. He told me if I was interested in contributing to open source. So I said yes. I had an interest for contribution, and I see it as an avenue for growth also.
Oh, nice. Okay, thanks for the introduction, Gabriel. We expect some PRs and some contributions from you. Who was that friend, anyways? Would you like to drop a name so that we can know who your friend is? Who's the imposter here?
All right. Okay.
Who's it?
Nice. Yeah.
His name is Sinon.
Okay. So you and Sinon are friends. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice to know.
Thank you.
Okay, so everyone, we are at the end of our call. If someone has any doubts or any other questions, we still have 4-5 minutes left. So we would like to answer your questions. So, yeah.
I have one, unless someone else has one, I'll pause. I have a quick one, and that's the last item on the agenda. So, it's a link. Did you go over this, Ashish? Did I miss this?
No, I didn't go over this right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, by way of quick introduction, Meshery is not a small project. It's one of a bunch of projects that we have. It's our biggest project. It has a lot of capabilities, and it is difficult to merge new PRs with new capabilities and make sure that all of the other capabilities still continue to work. So we try to run a bunch of tests, a bunch of integration tests and unit tests and end-to-end tests, and what the difference is And smoke tests, like there's a nuanced difference between all of these, but that really doesn't matter. The point is there's a lot of tests, a lot of capabilities of Meshery to verify. Hamza Sekranda was going over some tests earlier on the call. The more of those that are written, the better, the higher confidence that all of us, including you, have on Meshery just working and it having fewer and fewer bugs. This spreadsheet has 245 rows. That certainly doesn't cover, that doesn't even touch really the number of combinations of the ways in which someone could deploy Meshery and perform operations. It's a healthy swath of its functionality. But this is this is a spreadsheet that we would ideally turn a lot of columns green inside of. Green meaning that there's a test case that covers and verifies this functionality. It's most often the case that when you open a pull request or merge a pull request or a release is made, that there are any number of test cases executed. And so, yeah, this is a really important area. Yeah, there's, I won't, anyway, if you're interested in contributing, like A, do it, B, know that, well, there's a couple of different, just go ask inside of Slack. There's a few different tools and techniques that we use to run these tests. There's a ton of examples. As a matter of fact, if I were you, I would go ask Sekranda, Mr. Hamza that was presenting earlier. I'd go ask him, like, how do I get started? So.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of, I should have went over this. Thank you for doing this on my part. But yeah, so we use this spreadsheet to, like, even the test that Hamza you covered. After you cover those, make sure that you have those tests added here, and those actually go almost at the bottom, almost here. So make sure you have add those here so that we know that those are covered here. Anyways, so yeah, so that concludes the call today. Thank you everyone for joining. We hope to see you all on the Discuss forum on Slack and all other ways we communicate with each other. And on this call happens bi-weekly, so every second and fourth Thursday of the week, and this call takes place. So with all the changes that people have made, thank you for making those changes, and we hope to merge your PRs before the next call. And so yeah, see you in the next call, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Bye.
Bye all. Thanks, Ashish.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.